And so that's what I wanted to talk about, is within. Because that's where it's all at. It's not out there, it's within, it's in here. So everything that we look for ain't out there where we're looking, it's in here, it's within. So I wanted to talk about that, and there's a phrase. Well, actually, if you want to follow me with this, just open your Bible to 1 Corinthians chapter 2. You can find that open if you want to start right there, 1 Corinthians chapter 2. And this will be, as usual, out of the box, way out of the box. There's a lot of material that's available, and the problem with the material is that it's been, most of the material that I'm going to be referring to has been extremely researched, and therefore there's a lot of documentation to validate the material because the material is so controversial. That's the reason for it. And because of the fact that it is controversial, it's hard for the masses to think in that direction, because we're just so trained to be like a herd of cattle or sheep or anything. We're trained not to think. That's the dumbing down of us. In our system, our school systems, our children are basically taught not to think. And of course that's really going through a lot of turmoil right now in the media, the whole public school system, which should be a good thing. I remember when Andrea, the baby, our youngest, was in the 2nd grade, and this was back in 86, maybe 87, and I got a hold of the material and looked at the curriculum, which we had already gone through a lot of curriculum change here at the church in our daycare, because we offered a preschool material for the children, and so we couldn't find any that would fit with the ideas that we had, and so we rewrote the material and we used it here in our daycare. And we were the #1 daycare because back then, I'm going way back a number of years back, we participated in the county in what would be daycares and preschool. And we actually won 3 years in a row. We were the #1 daycare in the county with our preschool students. In other words, our students were more equipped to go into the 1st grade or kindergarten than any of the other kids in the county on that program that we were following. So we actually were in the paper and won that several years in a row. And then we began to drift out of that. And back then I would usually dress up, and we would have a graduation for the preschool kids and give them a diploma, which was a neat idea. And the kids, you know, you got a little 4-year-old or 5-year-old come marching down. It's cute, it's a lot of fun, and it was good. But the ideas that I teach, or the things that I research and study, are way out of the box of the norm. And most of the time we can get offended when we hear certain things because it is out of the box of the norm. So if you go tell somebody, some of your friends that's in a traditional church and rooted in that traditional church, they're going to tell you how crazy you are, and even how more crazy you are to be down here. Because of that controversy. You know, that's just kind of how that thing falls. But there is a story that's always run as a thread through all religious ideologies. And if you remember last week I talked about pure religion, which is rare and harder to find. Pure religion. Religion, as we know of it, mostly is an ideology that binds us up. And when I say binds us up, it doesn't bind us to God, it binds us to the ideology of that religion. In other words, if I'm a Baptist, I'm bound to these certain ideas and beliefs that the Baptists embrace. If I'm a Methodist, I'm bound to these certain ideas that the Methodist, if I'm a church, etc., etc., etc. And you know that, and so that brings in so much division, and that's basically what we have. We have a body so divisive and divided, you know. So as Wes said, can't stand. Yeah, Steve, you have
just, you know, about the stuff you were talking about, but they've dumbed down our generations for a long time. I remember when I was youth pastoring, working at Sears during the day, 3 nights a week managing at Chick-fil-A, I had a young man from Murray County High School come to me. He was a junior. Wanted to know if I could help him with his chemistry homework. Chemistry as a junior in high school. It was the exact same stuff I did in 7th grade general science. They've deliberately been dumbing down our generations for a long time.
Yeah, well, because of the fact that we had done that here, as far as rewriting our material, Andrea, when she got into 2nd grade, I looked at the curriculum and I didn't like the curriculum. I said, so I actually went to the school board. And I had a discussion with them. They said, I'm sorry, Mr. Hayes, there's nothing you can do about it. You can come to the school board meetings in the summertime and voice your opinion. That's when they select the curriculum that they use to teach the kids at school. So I did that. I voiced my opinion. They said, oh, I'm sorry, your voice don't count. I said, well, my daughter does count, so I don't think she'll be coming to school here. So we actually took Andrea out of school and we homeschooled Andrea from the 2nd grade all the way into the 11th grade. And when she got at that age, teenager, she wanted to be around more friends. And I don't think we damaged her too much, you know, because people would say that back then that was very controversial if you did homeschool your children. That was a very controversial thing. You know, you're going to destroy them, you're not going to let them be around kids, you're just going to be around adults, etc. Anyway, I don't think I destroyed her. She does very well, thank you, in society and with people. But we did put her back in public school because we didn't have the accessibility to put her in music and other things that she wanted to be in, and school did offer that, so we put her back in. So anyway, the things that I want to share with you are way out of the normal curriculum, and I know that, and I don't do that on purpose. That's just where my studies and research has taken me. So 1 Corinthians chapter 2, if you look at this with me, verse 6 says, howbeit we speak the wisdom of God among them that are perfect. And the word perfect actually means initiated. It's a shame that they do this with the King James translation or most any other translation. They take words and they have actually substituted words or changed words. You know, because if you read that and you're just reading along, you're not thinking, you're not studying, you're just reading for entertainment or just because you have this obligation, you feel like I've got to read the Bible through in a year.
My side note, perfect means mature, and then I have a side note on that to understand who I am.
Yes, and it does mean mature. But in this particular case, or in the Greek, in the original Greek, it means initiated. Now, if I said initiated, then I'm not sure what your mind thinks. I know what I think of when I hear the word initiation. I think of certain things. I mean, I was a Boy Scout and had become an Eagle Scout when I was young, and I was initiated. And so I don't know what you think of when you hear the word initiated. Can any of you give me a definition of what you're thinking of when you hear the word initiate?
Show yourself approved.
To start into an event.
Start into an event. Okay. Anybody else? When if you're initiated into something.
Yeah, or if you're confronting something, you initiate the first
step.
Yeah.
Begin.
Huh?
Begin.
You begin something. Okay. Wes, do you have
The word initiate is to start something. The word initiated is to be put into something to start it.
Okay.
So there you are, initiated.
Okay. So we do have differences in ideas, somewhat, but really not. not so much different. So to be initiated is to be in something or to be started in something, to start something, to, what did you say, Beverly?
Begin.
To begin. So to begin, to start, to be into something. And that's pretty much, I guess, a general consensus on the idea of initiation. The idea of initiation that was used 2,000 years ago was an idea where you were brought into a place, and in that place of beginning, or whatever you want to call it, you had a profound experience. Now, like for instance, if you join the Masonic Lodge, and you are initiated in the Masonic Lodge, you go through a ritual. When you begin it, you go through a profound ritual. That ritual is designed to give you an experience that you won't forget. So, in other words, that initiation, that experience has to be so profound in you that it causes you, you can either say it could cause you tremendous emotions. And I don't care how you define those emotions. Fear, anxiety, excitement, all of those are emotions, right?
Yes.
So that initiation brought you into a place. Like for instance, let me say this. The first time I had done baptisms, to baptize somebody. The word baptism comes from the Greek baptizo. Actually, it means to be initiated. And the word initiated in that, it means to have a profound experience. It comes out of the Hebrew word nachesh, serpent. To understand the wisdom of the serpent is to understand that that wisdom is initiated in you through an experience. And you don't forget it. Because that experience is profound enough that it stays with you, sticks with you. I could say it this way, it changes you. Okay? And so that's the whole idea behind the concept of initiation. So back when I first did baptisms, I had not had anyone to say, here's how you do it. And we had like 20-something young people that we were going to baptize. This is in my first church I started back in 1980. Believe it or not, I'm that old. And so we were going to baptize them, and we took them over here to Holly Creek. That's a mountain creek that runs out of the mountain. The water probably don't get above 50, 52 degrees. It's cold. And there's a big pool over there, a deep pool, at the spot in the river, creek, where a lot of country churches would use that area to baptize because it didn't have a baptismal pool in the building. So we took them out where the running water was at. And so when we started, I had the first ones come out, and actually I think my two oldest daughters were part of that first initiation of being baptized. And so I took them one at a time. And I had a couple of guys out there with me to help me because we were in water up about our waist or a little bit over. So for the kids, for the younger, it was up to their chest or their neck, depending on how old they were, how tall they were. And so I would take them and I would put them down and I would hold them there. I didn't think about the fact that they were not able to breathe. I would hold them there and start praying and prophesying over them individually. And some of them, I held them there so long, they would start to squirm. In other words, they were needing a little bit of air. But they never forgot that. You get the picture? That's initiation. That is initiation. You don't forget it. That's a true story. And as a matter of fact, Charlie Campbell was one of them that was helping me in there, and he kind of pulled me. He said, Lynn, you need to let him up. Oh, yeah. So I brought them up where they could breathe. So that's what initiation is. You won't forget it. It's a profound experience. I I mean, I cannot say enough about experience, because it's experience in life that shapes you.
That's right.
And if your experience in life are really what you would call bad, they have a tremendous effect on you and mold you in ways that you really would rather they didn't mold you in. And that's a lot of the thing behind modern day psychology, is they're wanting to go back into your experiences and help you to reanalyze that and set you free from it, because many times those profound experiences alter your life. Not in a necessarily good way for you, but many times in a bad way. They hold you there. Well, see, they understood this wisdom thousands of years ago. They knew this kind of wisdom, that experience. You think God did? Why do you think God had given us this wonderful, marvelous book that it is a mystery? This book is a mystery. And this book is about being initiated in who we really are, the one inside me. That's the real one. That's the one that we want to raise up. That's the one that you're seeking resurrection. In religion, they're looking for resurrection of a physical body. That's not going to do anybody any good. But if we could understand, the true mysteries are those of raising up that God-man in me. Which all of us have that God-man in us. And all of the mysteries were built around this ideology of raising up the God that's inside you, that's inside. They say God-man, it should be more like God-human, because it includes women. So, verse 6 says, "Howbeit we speak the wisdom among them that are perfect, or initiated, yet not the wisdom of this world, nor the princes of this world that come to nothing, but we speak the wisdom of God in a mystery." Now, everybody say mystery. Mystery. That's the Greek word mysterion, and I think I wrote that down. It's the Greek word mysterion, and the word, by the way, mystery is not found at all in the Old Testament. Period. You'd think, wow, it ought to be in the Old Testament, that kind of a word, mystery. There's not a Hebrew word for mystery in the Old Testament. Now, there is a Hebrew word for secret, but mystery is not necessarily always a secret. You see what I'm saying? So, but there is no Hebrew word for that's all Greek, and the word comes out of Greek mythology. But I want you to hear that it's the word mysterion. And actually, the word mysterion means a secret. In other words, you have to come into this facility to hear the mystery. So in that, it's a secret. It's not that it's concealed from anybody outside. It's open to anybody whosoever will. But you have to come in and to look into the secret yourself. And the word, it has a long meaning, but I want you to hear it. It means a secret through the idea of silence imposed by the initiation into certain rites and rituals. That's a long definition, but the idea of this word is that there's something inside you that needs to be, or that can be, or that should be awakened and stirred. Now, what would that be that's inside you? It would be the God-man. It would be the Spirit. It would be, there's several things that you could possibly say that you think that's maybe a secret, the Spirit or the soul. Not that they, and you can't use them synonymously because they're not the same thing, but it's that Spirit that, I could say it's that power. And the mythologies are the stories that are around this whole idea are just many, many. They're vast. They're too huge to number. But one of them that we have in Christianity, we have isolated on, one story we have isolated on, and actually we've made it the only one, but it's one among many of the same stories told in different cultures. And I want to talk about that one in just a few minutes. So, this mysterion is actually something that's inside you, and the idea that it is imposed Do you understand what the word impose? To impose on something means to establish it out or to bring it about by force. In other words, if the law imposes something on you, they bring it about by force. And so that force is actually a power, just like I said, of holding you down there long enough until you are startled. In other words, you are basically, I don't really like to use it, but give the until you're forced to think. Sometimes that's the only way to get us to think.
Shook up.
Amen. Shook up. That's good, Beverly. So that's what that word mysterion means. It's to reveal something inside you that you know that you don't with your natural mind comprehend. Is that compute? See, you know this inside you, and that word know comes from the Greek word gnosis, which is what the Gnostics, that's the early Christian name. Early, the Christians were called Gnostics or Essenes. That's what they were called. From around 350 BC up until 325 CE. They were called Essenes, or they were called Gnostics. And so there for over 600 years, this group of people, this ideology, swept the entire country in Asia Minor and was actually filtered up into Europe, all the way over into China, all the way down into South Africa, covering the entire world. And as far as we know, maybe have even come over into America, South America, into the Mayan cultures. But I do know that it covered that whole area for those 600 years. And it was actually a movement that was literally sweeping the country. And by that, I just simply mean it was bringing the people into such freedom and into such knowledge of who they were, other ideologies wouldn't stand. They didn't, the other ideologies weren't measuring up. You know, it was like a revival. The excitement and the enthusiasm among the people of all cultures, whether they be Brahmas up in India or whether they be monks up in China, it didn't matter. They were all coming to this because they were seeing the profoundness of it. They understood the profoundness of it. And it's out of that our ideology that we call Christian was born. It was actually born out of that movement of the Gnostics. And so I want to read you something from this little book. In just a minute I want to read you that, but I want to read you these notes. And Constantine, who was the emperor in Rome in 325, he was a tyrant. Matter of fact, if any of you would Google, please do. If you have a smartphone, you can go on it right now. You can look up Constantine and just read the history of that man. He was a tyrant like there's probably never been a tyrant. He was more of a tyrant than Hitler, and his ideologies were governmental control. You know, it seems like we're coming under some of that kind of tyranny right now in our country. But Constantine, he was the chief, he was the emperor, and so here was his idea. He was inundated with this movement that had been going on for 600 years. This movement was literally taking over Rome. So it was actually taking over his nation of people. And so he was such a tyrant. His idea was he wanted to be the only ruler of the entire world. And so his idea was he wanted one nation, in other words, to cover the whole world, and he was willing to go to any extreme to do that. Matter of fact, have you ever gone on History Channel or Discovery Channel and look around Greece, Asia Minor, or a lot of those older countries and see these massive, beautiful temples that have been torn down and all you have left are either the pillars that held the roof up or different things, and they're just demolished, and you sit there and you look at all of these phenomenal buildings like that. We ain't got anything to even touch it today. And they're still standing, partially. Have you ever gone back and thought in your mind, what happened to them? You probably just thought an idea of a tornado or a hurricane come through and tore them down, broke them down. Absolutely not. A tornado or a hurricane can't affect them, just exactly like a tornado or hurricane can't affect the pyramids. And they did try to tear the pyramids down. But it was from this emperor, this Constantine, that began to take place, because he began to send out Christian militias to go and demolish and destroy any temple that had any ideology other than the one that he wanted to be the ruler of the world. And here was his counsel, or here was his ideology. I'm going to read you his ideology that he finally got passed. And he got it passed because he had brought all of the leaders of the known world, 400 or 500 of them, in that whole Asia Minor area, which included all of Europe, part of North Africa, over all the way up into China, Japan, etc. He brought all these people, around 500 or so, 560, I forget how many. He had a lot of them killed, 40, 50, 60 of them. He had a lot of them killed because they just would not give to his ideas. So I'm going to read these ideas that he promoted and finally got it passed in 325. He said, God the Father, the Almighty Creator of heaven and earth. In other words, there was only one God who was the Creator in the heaven and earth. Now that idea was that he was the only ruler and emperor that ever would be, and so there would be only one in control of you. So this is where the idea of the Hebrew Elohim, which means gods, in any other nation in the world that understood that God was a plural term, not a singular, not a one, but a plural. So the first one that he come up with, God the Father, the Almighty Creator of heaven and earth. The second one was Jesus, his only Son. Now there wasn't even a name back then, Jesus. It didn't exist. There was no, the name Jesus in English didn't exist until the 1200s. In the 1200s is when the name Jesus was concocted. Prior to that. Now if you look under Greek, you would have Iesus. That was a Greek term. But in the Greek terminology, Iesus is where they concocted the name or put together the name Jesus in the 1200s. So the second one was, there's only one Almighty, that was him. That was Constantine, Jesus the only. He was conceived by the power of the Holy Spirit. And this is where Constantine's trying to promote the idea that he himself is God manifested in the flesh. He was conceived by the power of the Holy Spirit. Number 4, he was crucified and died and buried. Number 5, he descended into the lower pits, or into hell, or into the earth. And in 3 days he rose from the grave. All of this is astrological, by the way. It's referring to the sun that ceases to be. In other words, it ceases to be seen on the earth on December the 25th on the northern regions above Russia and China. You cannot see the sun for 3 solid days. And then after the 3rd day, about the mid part of that next day, the sun begins to rise again. The S-U-N. That's where this mythology comes from. It's astrological, so it understand. And the reason it's astrological because they understood that the sun and the stars, the moon, the sun was male, that was father. The moon was female, that was feminine. And the energies of those two combined created the life that existed on this planet we call the earth. So the father and the mother created everything that's here, the S-U-N and the M-O-O-N. And so that's the masculine and the feminine. And those they predominate even in the Hebrew Scriptures if you see it in Hebrew, like we taught here several months about, Ish and Esha. Okay, number 6, he ascended into the heavens. He ascended into the heavens. And number 7, he will come again to judge the living and the dead. Number 8, he believed in the Holy Spirit. Number 9, He believed in the communion of the saints, number 10. He believed in forgiveness of sin, number 11, the resurrection of the body, and number 12, life everlasting. Now, if you think about those are the 12 major beliefs that belong to Christianity. They didn't come from Christianity. They didn't even come from this book, the Bible. You won't find any one of them in this book you call the Bible. They're just not there. Now, you will find ideas that are similar because this book has been rewritten and changed to match these 12 creeds. I will show you that in just a little bit. I will show you how some of these things have been changed and rewritten to match this right here. And you can see it. Yes, Steve?
Well, I just looked up Constantine on Wikipedia online. They do nothing but praise him, actually. If you want to really know about it, you're going to have to do the research yourself.
Yeah,
What you just read was he was the first Christian emperor. He brought unity to Rome.
See, he wasn't even a Christian. See, he wasn't even until his deathbed. He killed his wife, killed his son. So you know, a lot of the material that you're going to get on Google and other places is manipulated and twisted. So you can do the research. You can find out. I'm not just trying to blow smoke in your face or whatever.
I've done the research, but I'm just telling. If you want, just like everything else, they want to make it so beautiful. He saved the country. He was the first Christian emperor. He brought them together. He started use of the gold coin, and it saved their financial. That's the stuff I just read on Wikipedia just now.
Well,
it talks
you
about
can go
some
do
of
the
other
research. Go
stuff.
find out who tore the Pantheon. Go find out who tore down the temples. You know who tore them down? The Christian monks.
Yep.
They were sent out of Rome, Constantine. They were tyrants. As a matter of fact, you can read a book. Gosh, what is the name of this book? It's by Eric von Däniken. Goodness, the name of it, I can't think of it. Eric von Däniken. He was a prolific writer. He wrote probably 100 books. Some of his books sold millions and millions of copies. He told why the whole Mayan culture seemed to disintegrate around the year 1000 or so. Somewhere they seem to just have all of a sudden totally disappeared. And if you go down to the south part of Mexico or the northern part of South America, Guatemala, down in there, and see the Mayan culture, the temples, the pyramids that they built are just as profound and on the same angles as the pyramids in Egypt. Same identical thing, you know, and yet it's on the opposite side of the world. The same wisdom existed among the Mayan culture that existed among the Egyptian culture thousands of years, way prior to Christianity, way prior. And what happened to the Mayan culture was the Catholic Church sent the monks into that region. They lived with those people for like 30 or 40 years trying to get their wisdom, and then they turned on them and literally slaughtered and murdered those people, and those people dispersed and went to all different parts of the country. And that's why you don't even have the culture. They even tore down parts of their temples in Cancun, down in South Mexico, and others. I can't think of the name of the other city where they have huge pyramids, beautiful. You know, if you go on my Facebook page, you can see me and Austin were down there, and a lot of pictures on my Facebook page that shows those ruins that are still there, ruins. You sit there and you see all these magnificent buildings, like when I went to Egypt and I saw the pyramids, and I see these, and I sit here and I'm looking at these pyramids and the magnificent power of these things. And yet, I'm looking at a city that, third world. I'm talking about poverty you can't imagine, and yet right there are the wonders of the world. And you sit there and say, what happened? You go to Greece and you see these magnificent temples and you look, what happened? Well, what happened on purpose was Christianity. I mean, do some research and look at it and see what happened. Why? Because they wanted to destroy anything and everything that's contrary to these 12 creeds. If it didn't follow these, then destroy it. Get rid of it. Kill anybody and everybody you have to. That's part of their ideology. That's a part of what they did, and that's part of what they do.
Well, Lynn,
So-
you tell us all the time, and my point of just what I pointed out was, you want to know the truth, you're gonna have to research it for yourself, because they don't want you to know it.
That, well, yeah, you will, but you can find it if
It's
you
there.
really want to
It is
know.
there, but you gotta want to know. because-
And what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to either make you mad enough or inspire you and prod you enough that you go and do some research on you. Don't take my word for it. Don't take my word for any of this. You know, if you want to prove that I'm wrong, then do the research to prove that I'm wrong. And I really encourage that. I'd like to see that. It's not a problem at all to me. So, but I want to read you some stuff out of this book right here. And this book is really researched. And so if you want to get a copy of this book, you can get it. You can actually go on Amazon and Google it and find a used copy. So plenty of them out there. This book did hit the New York Times bestseller list back in 2001, 2002, something along that period of time. So let me read you this right here. It says, why did the myth enacted by the mysteries, and by the way, the word myth, M-Y-T-H, today has taken on because of dumbing down the idea of a lie. And a myth is anything but a lie. A myth is a fabulous story that when it's told correctly, it will ignite something that's within you, something that's deep-rooted in you, to excite it and stir you into action, to be and to do things. So a myth is a story that's designed to stir you up inside and motivate you to be more than you are, than you're being right now. Because it's easy to become how lackadaisical, lazy, any other name that you might want to put there. It's easy to become that way. And most of us work hard at becoming that way. In other words, lazy. Or I say this, I don't mean to be ugly or disrespectful, but maybe I am I'm just prodding, I'm trying to stir, and I don't mean to make you mad to do it, but I'm saying, I always say, prove me wrong. Just research it, find out, and come to me or say something, and don't go behind my back and stab me. So, why did the myth enacted by the mysteries have such a profound effect? In antiquity, the word mythos did not mean untrue, as it does for us today. Superficially, a myth was an entertaining story, but to the initiate, it was a sacred code that contained profound spiritual teachings. Plato comments, it looks as if those also who established rites and initiations for us were no fools, but that there is a hidden meaning in their teaching. He explains that it is those who have given their lives to true philosophy. What is philosophy? Do y'all know what philosophy? Give me a definition of philosophy. Philosophy. Phileo. Phileo means love. Sophie, what does Sophie mean? Sophie is the word for wisdom. Philosophy means the love of wisdom. Now that's a good way I would describe me. I love wisdom. And my love for wisdom has caused me to search deeply in the mysteries. And I can't seem to quench that thirst. I can't satisfy. I don't want to satisfy that now. I really don't. I want to go deeper and deeper into the mysteries and find the wisdom of God. Because I know it's the wisdom of God that's going to pull me up out of the ignorance of myself. And it's real easy for me to be ignorant. In other words, to just ignore. Have you ever noticed how easy just to ignore everything? I mean, don't we? I just ignore that. We can ignore the clutter. We can ignore the this. We can ignore that, don't we? I mean, I'm talking to me. I'm not fussing at any of y'all. It's easy for me to just ignore. Don't pay any attention. Don't give it any. And the key that we really need to be looking for is awareness. Awareness brings wisdom because we're paying attention. Many times we get so distracted by the noise. I'm not talking about that out there. Remember, we're talking about what we're talking about. Now we're talking about within. Have y'all got any noise going on inside you? Probably a lot right now. Maybe got you stirred up. You got a lot of noise going. He's crazier than hell. I know he is. A lot of noise. A lot of things pull you. And so, you know, your bladder will pull you. Especially if I get to touching something that's really close. You know what? All of a sudden, you got to pee. Ain't no way you can hold it. I got to go. I got to go pee. That's what I'm talking about. That's ignorance. That's distraction. It pulls us away when we're getting close. Have you ever seen one of those birds? I call them the broken wing trick bird. Have you ever seen one of those birds? You get close to their nest. I mean, it's spring, they're all over the place out here in this front yard. They'll build their nest right there on the edge of the road in the gravel. And I don't know why they do that. And then you see, finally, if you watch them, you'll see where they put their nest and where they've got their eggs. And they'll sit there on those, and they're colored black and white and gray, and they're stricken, and you can't hardly see them at all. They hide really good there. They're camouflaged. But when you get real close to their nest, they will all of a sudden, they'll just go away like this. I'm serious, they'll go to dragging a wing like that wing is broke. Like they can't, and the reason they're trying to get you away from their nest. I mean, it doesn't matter if it's a dog or a cat or a human being, anything that gets close to its nest, it'll do that broken wing trick, just trying to distract you. Well, that's exactly what we get that. That's what your mind do. It'll do that broken wing trick on you every time. When you really hear something that's getting close, it's beginning to really get close, and then all of a sudden, that broken wing trick takes off. Tries to distract us. That's what I call ignorance. I'm ignoring the truth. It's right there in front of me, and I'm talking to myself. That happens to me a lot of times. That happens to me. So, let me read the rest of this. He explains that it is those who have given their lives to true philosophy, who will grasp the hidden meaning encoded in the mystery myths, and so become completely identified with the God-man in an experience of mystical enlightenment. I like that. He will come down, and you know, it's up to every person individually. It's up to you to do this for you. It's not up to me, it's up to you to do this for yourself, to bring yourself into alignment. I mean, there are all kinds of distractions, and you can justify any one you want. I had to go. The ancient philosophers were not so foolish as to believe that the mystery myths were literally true, but wise enough to recognize that they were an easy introduction to the profound mystical philosophy at the heart of the mysteries. Let me read you something else here. The Passion of Osiris. Osiris was a dying and resurrecting God-man in Egyptian mythology for thousands of years, going back possibly 50,000 years. Okay? And he's all over. If you go to Egypt, northern Egypt, around the pyramids, Giza, if you go to that area, you'll see a lot of Osiris. The Passion of Osiris. The Egyptian myth of Osiris is the primal myth of the mystery God-man. In other words, this is the one, as far as history unveils it, this is the first one that we know of. And a God-man simply means that it is a story of an individual that came, gave its life, died, and rose again. But it's never talking about a literal person. In other words, there was not a literal man named Osiris. It's the story of God bringing itself in the seed of your father. In other words, God died. Can you hear this? God surrendered itself to materiality. God is unlimited. But yet if God surrenders itself inside the walls of a seed, it's powerless unless some way it can break the shell of that seed and resurrect. That's the story of every human being. You see, in your father's seed, in your father's semen. You didn't one day knock on the semen of your father and said, why don't you deposit me and mama and then I can come about. That didn't happen. You were just a part of that love act, that act of love. And out of that, the semen was released. That semen contains God in it. It contains the light. It contains power in it. The power to create. Did it not? When that semen penetrated that egg, what did it do? Voila, it began to create you. And look at you. Here you are. Every bit of you. Here you are. And so what's happened? All throughout your life, there's been this nagging, a gnawing, this stirring, this oohing inside you. What is that? That's God wanting to resurrect. That's God wanting to come forth. That's God wanting to be all it can be in you. Every one of us. And I don't care who you are. I don't care where you're at. What color of skin, what nationality, whether you talk Sanskrit or can't, Hebrew or not. God stirring inside you and me. That's the story of the resurrecting. And the word resurrection don't mean for a physical body to come up out of a grave. The word resurrection is just like a seed that's coming up out of the ground and beginning to be what the seed's designed to be. What's the seed designed to be? God's designed to be in you all that it can be in you and through you. So this story, the Egyptian myth of Osiris, the primal myth of the mystery God, man, and reaches back into prehistory. His story is so ancient that it can be found in the pyramid text written over 5,000 years ago. Like I said, it goes as far back as can be thought. Before 670 BC, Egypt had a closed country in the manner of Tibet or Japan. More recently, but in this year, she opened her borders, and one of the first Greeks who traveled there in search of ancient wisdom was Pythagoras. And y'all remember Pythagoras. He's the father of what we would call math or algebra or whatever. And, and then he began to write a lot. Listen to this now. I'm going to move on. So the deity who was known as Osiris in Egypt became Dionysus in Greece and was called Attis in Asia Minor, Adonis in Syria, Bacchus in Italy, Mithras in Persia, Jesus in Israel. Same character, same identical story. Same story. What is the story? The story is of a God-man coming, sacrificing itself, being mutilated and killed, and then raising back up. That's the idea. That's the story of God's light in the seed of your father's semen, penetrating the egg, and wow, becoming you. Wanting to be, not just be you, but wanting to become more and all that it could possibly be. That's a really good book if any of y'all want to be bold enough to go buy it. The name of that book is The Jesus Mysteries. The Jesus Mysteries. Okay, go with me to the book of Genesis. The book of Genesis, chapter 2 and chapter 3. I wanted to just introduce this. I mean, it's not introducing it because we've spent so much time in this. You know, I live and think this all the time. It just won't leave me alone. It just goes over and over inside me all the time. And I just wanted to pick on two different words, two different experiences that are two different things that's mentioned here. Genesis 2:7. Genesis 2:7, it says, "And the Lord God formed man of the dust of the ground, breathed into his nostrils the breath of life, and man became. Man became a living soul." I could say it this way: man became a living mind. Or I could say it this way, man became a living emotion. Because that's what the soul, that's what the mind represents, your emotions. How many of you got emotions? Everybody got emotions. Can't they be stirred?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, absolutely. Let me say something to you. I want you. Do you realize anger does not even exist in the world? Anger don't exist in the world. Where is anger? Anger is an emotion that exists in you. It sure is. Doesn't exist anywhere else. And guess what? It's only you who can yield to it if you so choose. And when you do, that emotion can, listen to me, that emotion can literally control you and will control you. And it's all stimulated out of your mind. Because that's where that emotion was at in the first place. It was a thought that went through you. And generally we say, well, it's a thought you had in your head. No, you may have had it in your foot. Or another part of your body. Because that mind is not restricted to your brain or your head, because it's not your brain. That mind and that emotion is your entire being. That's your soul. You see, we have had such a gross misunderstanding of what soul is. You know what the real Hebrew word nefesh, esh. That's the fire of the spirit that's emotional inside you. Now, just that word. Now, here's the other one that we have, and I just go on and on and on over that one thing I've been teaching on forever for St. Life. Genesis 3:1. And I've told this person, this lady had called me and was asking me some questions, and I was trying to help her. She doesn't get my CD. She had heard me on YouTube. Kind of stirred her. And so she wanted to argue with me. I don't know why. And I wondered how she got my telephone number. I was thinking about that, and I thought, I remember now, my telephone number is on my CDs, and it's on I think it's on my Facebook page, and I think it's also on YouTube. And I said, that's fine. I don't mind that a bit. I'm glad that way they can call me, at least argue with me. And I welcome that all the time. I like a good argument. And so she had asked me some things that I had said about the serpent and about Elohim, and so I was telling her about where I come. And so she had no answers. After I explained to her the thing, she had no answers. All she had was questions. So Genesis 3:1, the serpent. Now the serpent. Y'all see that? This is not a snake. This is not a snake. But yet we are taught this is a snake. Yet if we go back in ancient times, we would realize that a serpent or a dragon was always the symbol of wisdom. Always. So if I am a philosopher or practicing philosophy, I'm practicing the love of wisdom, because I know that it's wisdom that resides deep inside my being. So if I can understand this, the serpent and the word here, actually the Hebrew word for serpent is nachesh. You have to kind of rattle the back of your throat to do that one. It's spelled exactly like nafesh, like the soul. So the soul and the serpent are spelled exactly the same. The difference is the middle letter in the two words. One of them represents an 8 and the other one represents an 80. That's the only difference. So the one that represents 80 means that it deals with duality. It means with a split king-size bed. One's on one side, one's on the other. And the other one is an 8. It deals with divine pattern. That's the only difference in the two words. Nachesh, nafesh. One of them means emotions, and the other one means experience. Now, do your experiences and your emotions get tied together?
Yes.
Absolutely. Are they supposed to be? Absolutely. They are supposed to be twined together with something else. And that's your physical body. And when you have a threefold cord tied, it's not easily broken. Yet what we have gotten out of these two passages, these two chapters, 2 and 3, what we have gotten out of it through religion is dumbed us down to where we can't really think clearly. And so we just ignore good, clear thinking. Go with me now to Genesis chapter 6, and I want to read you some words here. I want to show you. I didn't even get to write on the board. Wes went ahead and done his kung fu thing here on Wahoo and Wadasu and Hu-Wee. Which is really good, Wes. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Then that's not Sanskrit, that's Sand Mountain script.
Sand Mountain. Okay. You'd be surprised what they get over on Sand Mountain, buddy. I'm going to tell you right now. Northern Alabamians are rising again. Now this is a passage of Scripture. I'm going to read it to you and just kind of introduce some things and say some things that's way out of your box. And I know it's way out of your box. It's probably one of the most mistranslated 4 or 5 verses that's in the entire whole of the Bible. And it's given so many crazy ideas. I mean, you can go on History Channel, you can go on a lot of these profound teaching channels and find brilliant people, good teachers that use this as a basis of the many things that they teach. And they'll use it just exactly like it's quoted right here in the King James Bible. But I'll show it to you, and I'm just going to go through it and read it, and I'm going to change a few things as we go through it. It says, and it came to pass when men, see that word men?
Yeah.
That's the first time in the English translation, King James, that word is used. Men, M-E-N. Now, what do you think of when you read that? What do you think of? I know you think of something.
What you do, man?
Yeah.
You think about a man, don't you?
Yeah.
You think about a man. Do you have any idea about a woman? No. You think of a man, don't you? All right, that is the same identical word that in Genesis 1:26, it says that when God began to create man, M-A-N, it's the word Adam. That word right there, men, is the word Adam. It's the first time it's translated for the word men. Now, if they had translated from the Hebrew Adam, because Adam means humanity. See, Adam is not the name of a central character that's first introduced. Adam is mankind, humankind. In Genesis 1, it says, and Genesis 5, it says, and he called their name. Talk about male and female, masculine and feminine. He called their name Adam. So, if I read it and I said, and it came to pass when mankind began to multiply on the face of the, you see that word earth? That's the word Adamah. This is the first time that it's translated for the word earth. Adamah is generally translated for the word ground. Like in Genesis 2, it's the first time, Genesis 2 is the first place that word, Adamah. Now I want you to hear the sound of these. I'm not going to take time to put them on the board right now. I've done run out of my time. Adamah, does that sound familiar to another Hebrew word that I just mentioned? What does it sound familiar to? Adam. So is it taken from the word Adam? Absolutely. Adam is the root for the word Adamah. Does it mean ground? No, it means miracle substance. Because you see, the word Adam means the miracle substances of the earth that God stirred to create humankind. It's not the name of a character or a person. So now then, we are beginning to look at something that's different here than what we've ever been taught. So it says, and it came to pass when Adam, mankind, began to multiply on the face of the creative, the things that are creative here. The Adamah, not the ground, the Adamah, the miracle substances that are here. What happens? And daughters. You see that word daughters? This is the first time that that word is used, and this particular word is bean. I'm going to put it up here. I'm going to put that one up here. So I'm going to come back and put it up here in Hebrew. This is Beth. And this is final. Nom. And it's pronounced B-E-N. Ben. Have you ever heard of Joseph Ben and then put a name behind it? What do you think of when you hear the word Ben, the Hebrew word? Let me tell you how most people think of it. Son. Wait a minute now. Wait a minute now. Why would they translate Ben, daughter? What do you think of when you hear the word daughter?
Girls.
A girl. That word ain't got nothing to do with girl. First time it's used that way. And you know, we're just kind of stirring something here. Any of you can do this. You don't have to go to Google, because it get you a concordance, get you a Hebrew concordance, and look up the word. That's all I ask you to do. And when you do, you'll say, oh my goodness, that Hebrew word men is number 120 in Hebrew, and that's the word Adam. And then that word daughter is the Hebrew word 1121, and it's the word Ben, which means a son. And that word earth there, that is the Hebrew word 127, which comes from 120, and it's Adamah. Isn't that amazing? You think, how could intelligent people get this far off track? On purpose, that's how. Did you get that? On purpose, why? Are they trying to rewrite a story? Yeah. What do you think Constantine was behind in those days? Rewrite the story. That's the only way we're going to tell them a lie. Tell them a lie. They won't know the difference. If we tell them a lie long enough, we can go one generation, tell them a lie for 40 years, and then after that, they will believe it's the truth. That's how they do it. Just tell it over and over. It don't matter. Moving their mouth, they're lying. Do they really care? No. They have an intent behind it. Their intention is to deceive and manipulate. Deceive, manipulate, and control. So this word daughters is actually the Hebrew word ben, or ben, and actually it's first used for the word son. Well, just look with me. You're right there. Just turn back one page. Chapter 4, verse 17. You can look this up if you would, if you'd like to. Verse 17, it says, and Cain knew his wife, and she conceived, and she bare Enoch. And he built a city, and called the name of the city after the name of his, you see that word son? That's the same identical word that's translated daughter. Ben, B-E-N. Same word. Same word. But over here, it's translated daughter. Now, why? You asked yourself this question. Because I do. Because see, this is what I spend so much of my time doing. I just read and I wonder what that really means. Because it don't make sense to me right here now. I understand what the translators are trying to tell me now. You know what the translators told me? They were saying that the sons of God were the angels that left heaven. This is a story that they told me. That the sons of God that are mentioned here are the angels that left heaven, and they come down here and they saw the daughters of man. And they said, wow. I mean, you know, look at them. Ooh. Look at them, man. Don't they look good? That's the story they told me. And then they said, wow, let's have sex with them. Let's take them and have sex with them. Because they're tantalizing. This is a story they told me. And you know what? I believed it. I mean, I believed it for years. And then I would come through here and I would just read that and I thought, that don't make sense. How in the world is a 15-foot guy, angel, giant? Because they were giants, wasn't they? Huh? Wasn't that what you was told?
Yeah.
How in the world is a 15-foot guy going to have sex with a 5-foot, 5-inch tall, average sized woman? How's that going to happen? Somebody going to get hurt. Or ripped apart. Oh, but we had a good time. You know, can I be very ugly? Bullshit. That's how it kept coming back to me that way. It kept coming back. That translation is just bullshit. It cannot be that way. How in the world can God allow this kind of a thing to take place to His creation? It cannot be that. That's what kept coming back to me. And you know what? And rather than ignoring it and just accept it and read it just exactly like I think it's written there and say, oh, well, it's the truth. It's the infallible Word of God. You know? Again, BS. No, the translators are manipulating this. They are changing this for a purpose and a reason. It doesn't say in Hebrew anything near what you and I have been taught that it says. Not anywhere near close. It's not anything about angels as giants coming down here and having sex with women and then creating a different race of being, a half-breed race of being. It ain't got anything in the world to do with that. But that's what we've been sold. That's the bill of goods. And we just ignore it and just go and buy it, hook, line, and sinker, and keep on going on our way. I'm just scratching the scratch, okay? I'm just kind of introducing something to you that's just a idea to show you how twisted this book has become. But it contains within it the mysteries and the truth, but you got to dig and get it. The gold is still there. That's the beauty of it. I've had people say to me, well, why do you even bother to read the thing if it's that messed up? I said, because I know that in the depth of it, it contains the wisdom of God and it contains the mystery of God, but I got to go in there and find it. It's just like digging for gold. You got to go in there and dig it out. And when I can and when I do, wow, I yield the benefit of it. And that's transformation and change. So I'm just going to quit there. It's not that I'm through, it's just that I'm running out of time. I'm way over my time, Lynn, on what I'm trying. I like to keep my messages to an hour under, and that's nearly impossible. Nearly impossible. But so hope that you are stirred to think, you know, prod yourself to think that just because this book says something a certain way, Constantine began that. He began to sell the lie to the masses of the people, and then he began to empower them. You see, money is power. Money can do a lot of things. Money can corrupt, and it does in many cases. It don't have to. It can be a blessing, but in most cases, money gives you power, and the power that you have, you think you control anything and anybody. We see that going on right now in our culture. Money is trying to destroy us right now. And if people don't really wake up and take the time, I was talking to someone just yesterday, matter of fact, I said, if you don't take the time, do your own research. Do your own research just to see for yourself what's going on right now in the media and in our political agenda, that we are headed for a hell of a place. I hope people do some research. Okay, I'll quit right there.